Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Welcome back to another recent reads video where I talk about a few of the books that I read and give you my thoughts on it. First one is The House in the Cerulean Sea by T.J. Klune. I don't have the book, I give it to someone else. I gave this book a 5 out of 5. This was one of the easiest 5 stars for me. This is such a hype book on the internet, and I'm pretty sure by now you've either heard of it or you've read it and you know what I'm talking about. The story follows Linus Baker, who is a caseworker working at the department in charge of magical youth. So his job is to attend these orphanages and see if they are up to the standards and if the kids are having a good time and they're treated well, and then report back to his superiors. It's a very simple, albeit a little boring life, but he's okay with it. He's used to it, he's satisfied with it. He's a grumpy old fart, but he has accepted his life as it is, and he's a very strict follower of rules. Because of his attitude and his personality towards following the rules, he is tasked with going to one of the worst orphanages that they claim and to assess their condition. So they claim that this orphanage is one of the worst, and it has one of the worst children, like the magical children in there, including the Antichrist. The story is so wonderful, it is so beautiful, it's wholesome. When you read it, it just makes you happy. It's one of those rare stories that truly defines the word beautiful. Honestly, like, all of these characters are instantly lovable. They're funny, they're witty. Most of them I found a place where they belong when, like, the society has outcasted them as different or violent. But when you actually read the book, and even Linus, when he goes there, he realizes that they are farthest from it. And these characters are so pure and their dreams are so innocent. It's just, when you read it, you feel like these are actual people and all you want to do is give them a hug and just spend time with them. There's also a queer romance going on between Linus and the head of the orphanage, which is another sweet romantic relationship that I really enjoyed reading. I really suggest you go and read this book, y'all. It's such a great book, and I found myself crying just reading about it, simply because I was just so happy for these characters and I felt closer to them. And I suggest you read this without looking up any reviews or any of the synopses available, because that's how I read it. You just go right into it and read it. I know that you're gonna love it. Also, I found myself crying for these characters, right, because their dreams are so innocent and their enthusiasm is so infectious, and it's just such a pure joy to read, and you just can't help tearing up. So the next one I read is A Chord of Flames. This is the 4th book to the Akata series. I surprisingly enjoyed this more than Akawo and first book. I liked Mist and Fury, and after that I would say this is the one I enjoyed most. And I really liked Nesta, and I liked her and Cassian's relationship. I have a whole reading blog where I just tell you all my thoughts and all that. If you want to check it out, you can watch it there. This was just one of those fun reads, right? There's really no depth to this story, but it was a fun and it was an inviting read, and I really enjoyed it. Next 2 books I read are Take a Hint, Danny Brown, and Act Your Age, Eve Brown by Tyler Hibbett. Again, this is another one of those fun romantic reads that I read. I was in the mood for it. I didn't want to read anything heavy, so I just picked like very easy, simple reads, just like these two and the Akata series. So if you're looking for a cozy romance, I would highly suggest Talia's writing, because while the story is pretty repetitive and her writing style is the same and her stories are pretty much the same in all these books, they are not cringy. That's one of the best things I love about this book, is that these people, these characters, they feel realistic, and what they go through is pretty relatable. So I would say, if you really want to give like romance a try, I would highly recommend the Brown Sisters trilogy. Next up is a non-fiction that I read, and that is A Brief History of Humankind by Yuval Harari. I gave this 5 out of 5, and this book is so much more interesting than any of the history books that we learned in school. The title says it all, right? This is a brief history of the evolution of humans, and it's such an interesting read and a very fascinating book that I learned so much from it. I want to tell you guys a few of the things that I learned so I can share it with y'all. So one thing is the importance of language, and this book talks about how the only reason that Homo sapiens managed to exterminate all the other human species like the Neanderthals or the Homo erectus and climb so fast to the top of the food chain is because of our ability to communicate and use language to do so. And the book goes into detail about how significant and how important the language was for our evolution, including the beginning of it and how it came to be. So that was very interesting to read. And the second thing is, this is something I found very interesting. Have you ever wondered why we have no self-control when it comes to sweet food or greasy food? You remember, right? So apparently there's a reason for that. So back in those days, we didn't have any refrigerators to store all our cakes and our pizzas or whatever it is, right? So the idea is that the only source of sweetness that we got were from ripe fruit. So when a person came across a plum tree, for example, they would eat as much as they can because they know that they're never going to get it again after they move on. Apparently that's still why we gouge and we eat like tubs of ice cream or like an entire pizza, as if we'll never have it again. Another thing is that this book defies the natural way of life the society has deemed acceptable, because there's no evidence in history to suggest that being attracted to the opposite gender is the only and natural way of life. And the only evidence that exists is that it all depends on your culture. There are different cultures and different traditions, so like in some cultures it was accepted that you only can love your opposite gender. In some it was accepted to love someone of your own gender. So as you can see, like, it wasn't set in stone that you can only love this one type of person, and because that was the natural way, right? It didn't exist. So there was nothing that was set in stone as a natural way of life. So to all you homophobes using history to justify your ignorance, you're shit out of luck. That's not true. So anyway, that's a few things that I learned. I mean, this book is huge, right? There's so many wonderful things that you can learn about our history. It's fascinating. I highly recommend you read it if you ever want to pick up on non-fiction. The next book I read is Jade City by Fonda Lee. This was a buddy read and I give this 4 out of 5 stars. This was one of the best books I would say I read in 2021. The story takes place in this island of Kekon, which is similar to Japan, and in this island you have this natural occurring mineral called jade that when you harness its power can give you abilities like strength, speed, perception, all that. Now the thing is, not everyone can wear jade naturally because jade is so powerful and it's so toxic when you wear it that for the people who can wear it, they have to train to use it right, otherwise jade will take over them and then you get something called the itches. So the people who can wear jade naturally are called the Greenbones, and the Greenbones have 2 clans in Kekon, the No Peak clan and the Mountain clan. So we follow the Call family of the No Peak clan. They are the head of the crime family and you basically follow their story. I'll say this, if you love Peaky Blinders just as much as I do, you will really enjoy this book. It's more or less similar to that, except for the fantastical element. And you know, underneath all this jade and this power, this story is about honor and family, and that is something I love to see in a fantasy book. The writing is immaculate. The characters are so fleshed out, they're so complicated, and this happened after a long time that I was fascinated by a magic system, because Jade in itself is a character in the book and everything surrounds the ability to harness Jade. The world building and the magic system, it is so well thought out and you're just completely fascinated by this magic system. And Jade is the center of everything, right? There are traditions, the economy, the politics, all of it come down to Jade. So that's why I said that it's a character in itself. So it's like the one that's driving everything. And you see not just in Kekon, right, in this island, the rest of the world as well, and how jade affects all of them. I finally got Jade War last night, so I'm really excited to get into this because the first book ended, it had its own conclusion, which is something I really like in a book, but yeah, it's a setup to the rest of the book and the clan wars that's like brewing. So yeah, I can't wait to read the second one. Yeah, it's definitely one of my favorites, as you can probably tell. And also the reason I gave this a 4 stars because there was a dip in the middle of the story which was hard to recover from, and there was like a lot of political setup going on, which was interesting at first, but then it sort of dragged on. So that's why I gave 4 stars. I want to reread the series again after Jade Legacy comes out and then read it in retrospect, because I know I might actually like it more after that, knowing what happens in the end. But anyway, I'm rambling. I love this book. Highly recommend this one. Yeah, so go pay it up. Alright, so that is it for this video. I hope you liked these books that I talked about. If you liked it, give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.